all profit is value extraction. And that means that all profit is theft from you.
Corporate America is on welfare, and we've got to get them off welfare.
The last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary, and you're gonna have to keep on saying that.
They're trying to start causing problems like as soon as we start.
All right, keep an eye on them, I guess.
They're cats. That's what they do.
Yeah, they look like trouble. All right, so hey, welcome to Cars and Comrades. It's your socialist car podcast. I'm Bryant. What?
Starring my cats.
Yeah, starring Brandon's cats, me, Bryant, Connor, and Zach. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, not too bad.
Never better.
Yeah.
I'm something. I'm great.
Yeah, so we got a few different segments coming up on the show today. We kind of just, it's a little bit of a car potluck here.
Before we do anything, let's address a rumor that I heard.
Okay.
Okay, we're doing this.
I've looked. I can't find any concrete confirmation that this is true, but supposedly because Dodge, the new Dodge Chargers have don't oil well at idle and will wipe out their cam if you just idle them. Supposedly there is a shortage of cams right now, which I have personally dealt with because I was limited in the options for my big block cam because a bunch of them were out of stock and back ordered and shit.
That's right.
Supposedly because cops are very stupid and idiots and do everything wrong, and they just sit around in their shitty Dodge Chargers idling them. They're all suddenly having cam failure where they've wiped out the cam lobes. And
What
manufacturers
the fuck?
are shifting over to try and get all of these Hemi cams made because cops are stupid, use their equipment wrong, and fucked up all their cars.
Oh my god, I have for years wondered. I'm like, they sit and they fucking idle these cars all day, every fucking day. Is this going to ever cause damage? And it seems that it has. Amazing. Yeah, don't idle a car like that.
Pure speculation, but from everything I can tell, they actually do have oiling issues at low RPM. So it does make sense that if you just sit around with them at idle for years,
That's all they do.
you're going to cause problems.
Yeah,
Oh,
didn't have
what
that
a
problem with the
waste.
Crown Vic. That thing was, a little bit more robust.
Well, I mean,
But-
the Chargers don't. They're no car is just meant to sit at idle for 8 or 10 hours a day.
No, not
Yeah.
at all. That's so fucking funny.
And
Oh
then all
my
the donut
god.
stuff gets in the fucking interior, and then they've got to go murder people because they're mad about it.
What a
I heard,
fucking waste.
when two cop cars are parked next to each other, pointing opposite directions, so their driver's side windows are facing each other, so they can sit and chat.
Technically, that's referred to as a pig pen.
Oh, okay. See, I've heard it called cruiser spooning, which is also kind of funny.
When I say technically, I mean that's what I just called them.
Sure. All right.
But from now on, I think that they should be called pig pens.
I'm for it.
Reason number
so yeah,
873 to abolish
go ahead,
the
Connor.
police. I was just saying, reason number 873 to abolish the police.
Yeah, I can't get the big block cam that I want, and I had to settle for less lift.
That is a
Possibly
tragedy.
because of the police.
We'll find any reason to blame police. And for good reason. This is a good one.
Yeah.
What bastards.
There's plenty of reasons. We don't really need to go searching.
No.
Yeah. All right. So now that we got the rumor section out of the way, so little table of contents here for y'all. We're gonna do some project car updates as usual. I've got a segment on leaded gasoline, tetraethyllead, the history of that, and why it's bad, and kind
sure
of
it's not-
made
you're sure-
boomers stupid and violent.
You're sure it wasn't good?
What's that?
You're sure it wasn't good? I have seen some
Well, it's
right-wing
great for
memes.
it's great for an octane booster. Like it's super cheap and easy to manufacture, and really really poisonous. And especially for the brains of children.
I don't know.
Well,
I've seen some
in my
right-wing
personal
memes where they
experience,
say,
I don't find.
"Shit, we're really really laggy." I'm sorry, guys. Wow.
All right, Connor, go ahead.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe I should refresh or something. That's real bad. That's like 30
Maybe
seconds.
should I hit pause and see what happens here?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to hit pause. We'll try and cut this out. Connor, go ahead. All right. We had a little technical difficulty there. It was a little laggy, but I think we're back up and running. So just to give you all a heads up of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to do our project car updates as usual. I've got a little segment on leaded gasoline, tetraethyllead, and why it's not the greatest thing in the world. And then we're going to revisit the fantasy car company segment that Zach missed out on, so we're going to get his thoughts on that. I've got an update on the Lemons race last weekend, that being the 11th. So who knows when this will come out. It might be a little bit old news, or maybe it'll come out exactly when the Lemons YouTube video comes out.
Look,
so,
admittedly,
we'll see if we can get a scoop on that.
Everything we do is like late news by the time it comes out.
Yeah. If you're looking to us for like current events, then sorry.
Just live in the past with us.
Yeah, just get last week's newspaper and.
If someone's coming to us for current events, then that's on them.
Yeah. So I guess we should do project car updates. And I think Brandon, I think you're the first one up.
I can do that. I worked on everything.
Woo!
Everything.
Well, I guess not really, but sort of. I have continued putting my motorcycle together, and actually, I guess I really haven't done like that much. I've started. I tore down my big block. Encountered some slight problems that I'm choosing to ignore rather than send it to the shop for machine work. My cam bearings don't look like they're in the best shape, but I'm not that committed to this motor. I don't know, but I'm getting it back together. I had this really cool idea where I would do some grinding near my motor with it uncovered and not think about it, so I had to clean debris out of all the cylinders.
Fun.
Yeah, it was like mostly wire wheeling stuff, so it wasn't like actual grit. So I'm just like, no, this is fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, I did that. Man, I know I'm forgetting stuff because I've been in my shop like every day lately. Whatever. I guess that's that. Oh, I might have decided to buy a dirt track car.
Yes.
I'm still sorting that out, but I went to the dirt track racing and was like, you know what would be more fun than watching dirt track racing? Racing in the dirt track.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, so I'll keep you updated on that. I'm not necessarily trying to rush into buying another car, but I'm also not trying to build a dirt car. I just want to find one that I can afford to buy and race it.
That's the way to do it.
Have you ever seen those Legends cars with the like Kawasaki bike motors? I think those are pretty cool.
I actually have. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they look kind of like a 34 Ford, or similar vintage cars, but they have a motorcycle engine. They rip pretty good.
That's actually not what I thought you were talking about, but I still also know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they're called something else, but I've seen a couple of them where people have put lights and turn signals on them and made them street legal, which kind of rocks.
That does rock.
Why would I want something that I'm driving to be street legal?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's my turn then. I have done very little with cars. I've been, still moving into my new place and unpacking and all that. And I did get a chance to last week jack up my MR2 and look underneath it. And turns out when that axle went loose, it also took a chunk out of the transmission. So it whipped around and punched a hole right in the transmission, and you can see some gears in there, and that's probably not good.
Probably not.
So at this, yeah. So I do have a spare transmission and an axle. I might need a couple other odds and ends, but I've done that before. It's a pain in the ass. I'm gonna need to borrow an engine hoist from someone, or maybe just get like a 4x4 and a ratchet strap to lift the engine up a little bit. So we'll see. But what I might do, and maybe y'all can give me some input on this, is just get a piece of like soft annealed aluminum and hammer it onto the shape of the transmission and JB weld it in place there, and then fill it up with transmission oil and see if it'll drive around for a little bit.
I mean, if you got to, it'll probably work as long as all the insides are okay. But you're playing with fire, You just have enough money to get a tow.
I mean,
basically keep
right.
enough money in the account that you could get a tow truck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not gonna make that transmission any better. Like it's already kind of shit. Like it was already popping out of fifth gear.
Yep.
So like it's not long for this world. I will have to replace it eventually, but I don't know. I guess it depends on like how much time I have. I might just want to like be able to park it on the street while I do stuff with my Subaru, because that's due for an oil change pretty soon, and the AC doesn't work. So yeah, it's fun having project cars.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, and it leaks fuel too. I don't know if I mentioned that before. The Subaru does when it's cold.
Yep, you did.
So I'm gonna have to fix that before winter.
Yep, you did mention that. Sounds great.
Yeah, that's all I've got for my own stuff right now. Connor?
Well, I have considerably more.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the first bit, which is the least important, but also maybe you guys have some answers for me. The Camaro has still got all the same problems it's always had, and it's just in the shop, but it's very back burner because the Z has kind of taken precedence. But one of the things that we have to look into is I got a new gas tank filler neck because I had gasoline pouring out of the fucking tank because the old one was bent and the cap wouldn't seal. So that was a whole thing. But replacing it is pretty kind of a big pain in the ass, since it like goes, half of it goes into the gas tank and it's like brazed on there, and we don't want to do the whole like drop the gas tank and everything and like do the whole fucking thing. So what we're thinking of doing is actually cutting off the top bit and welding on the top from the new piece that I bought. The real question is, there's the main filler neck tube, and inside that it runs along the top is a secondary tube, which is used for some kind of ventilation, and I think it has to do with when you're filling up, it'll like cause the pump to stop when you get sufficiently full, and I think that tube has something to do with that.
Yeah, it's the vent.
It's the vent. So I don't know how necessarily airtight that has to be when we re-weld the new piece, because like you'd only be able to weld the outside, not the inside. So the question is, if we used like an RTV to connect the new piece on there and then welded the outside, would that be a sufficient seal that like, or would that fuck things up?
I mean, I'd be more worried about welding on the gas tank without. I mean, I assume you're gonna like drain it out and like flush it with water or something.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not doing the welding.
Yeah, no, he's like. for all of the incredibly sketchy things that I do, welding on a fuel tank is highly doable, but you have to be really fucking careful because if it's not cleaned out really well, gas vapor is going to be in there, and that's the most explosive thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm assuming we will have some precautions for that, but I don't know. We're trying not to take the whole gas tank out, so I don't. Which I don't know. Maybe we.
I thought you were going to say we're trying to not take too many precautions.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out if it's even feasible at this point. Because like it's.
I guess you could just get like some fuel safe hose and some hose clamps instead of welding it. Just put a piece of rubber or a silicone hose in between.
So we actually thought about that, like using like a radiator hose or something, and kind of like slipping it over one end, and then just putting RTV around everything, and then slipping it back over, and then clamping it down. That might be the better way. I'm worried if it like doesn't seal, will it actually cause a problem? And a part of me thinks it won't.
I do know that some RTV is not fuel safe.
Yeah, no, using the fuel safe RTV, of course.
Yeah,
I don't know. It seems like something we're gonna try, but it's kind of a sort of a risky move, I suppose. So I don't know. I was thinking if maybe somebody knows, but whatever. We're probably just gonna try it. So I don't know.
I have a pretty good solution. Is your filler neck driver's side or passenger side?
Driver's side.
Okay, so just go really slow when you turn right.
I have tried that. It helps marginally, but like.
Also, never have more than a half a tank of gas.
Been doing that. Still comes out.
Or just wrap everything in duct tape.
I like that you've already tried all of the solutions that I'm only offering sarcastically.
I mean, that's where I've been at, man. I've been trying not to worry about it, but I'm like, yeah, no, I gotta fix this. Okay, well, yeah, whatever. We're gonna try it. I'll let people know if that actually works, and I guess we'll soon know if that tube on the inside, if it doesn't seal, we'll know if that's a problem or not. We'll find out together. Can't wait.
I'm having a hard time visualizing what you're describing, so that's why I'm not offering more like actual help. But there has to be like a real way to do this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something. Whatever. I'll keep you all posted. That's not the big news, though. The big news is the Z, which is very, very close to done. It's all put together, and it is not currently starting. But I'm going to be talking to the tuner tomorrow to see if like that seems relatively normal, because it's like it's turning over. It sounds really consistent, and it sounds perfectly strong. And if you squirt some starting fluid in there, it does start to like fire up a little bit. So we think there's spark, but because I've got like brand new larger injectors that, as far as I know, I'm not sure if the computer can actually even communicate with them yet. So the car's not starting yet, but it's got to go over to the tuner to get a baseline tune on it so that it can actually start and run for the break-in. So that's both exciting and a little nerve-wracking. But I don't know. It looks good, and I'm very excited for it to run. So I did. Sweet. I got a chance to actually go to the shop yesterday and like see it, and it looks good. It's got new headlights in it, which also look very good. The whole car looking solid. New fucking everything. Engine.
Oh, by the way, Connor.
Yeah.
I was driving around Denver last night and saw a 350Z with the underglow that changes color.
Yes.
And I think you should definitely get that.
I think I should definitely get that too. I am very supportive of underglow, so yeah. Hopefully, I think that's more of a next year kind of thing. But
it also had the chrome license plate frame with the palm trees on it. Because we live in Colorado. There's palm trees all over the place.
Yeah, that
here.
seems a little mismatched, but
yes, tropical Colorado.
Yes.
Well, hey, who knows? With the realities of climate change coming, anything is possible. Minnesota could be a tropical paradise someday.
Yeah, I think it's more likely to be a desert.
Yeah, probably.
but a beachside desert.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Denver is an old ancient lake bed, so it'll probably fill
Exactly.
back up.
There you go.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, it was a place for a lake to sleep at. That's nice.
Yeah. It gets tiring being a lake. You know, you gotta have some rest.
It gets tiring being this funny.
I can only imagine.
I'm tired.
All of my friends are very tired of it.
Well, yeah, that's pretty.
So that's
Sorry, I was just gonna say that's pretty much all I got. Z is looking cool, and hopefully it's running soon. So, yep.
I'm always looking cool. Oh, you made your car.
Yeah.
this is like the most efficient project car update we've ever done. We're killing it.
I know, right?
Does anybody have a story to sidetrack us?
I was just gonna say, man, I need to take like 100 times longer than usual so we can get back on our very slow pace.
You don't like have to do that.
It just feels wrong to not to.
But sometimes the things that feel wrong are the most right.
Oh. Yeah, I feel like there should be.
I have no
music in
joke
the
that would be
background
appropriate to follow that. How's your truck, Zach?
Oh, you know, still a piece of shit.
So you fixed it?
No, it's a non-working piece of shit right now.
Mm.
But my transmission did ship. The builders got it done, and it shipped out on Thursday. Should be here this Thursday at the earliest.
Nice.
Sweet.
But,
So you feel like it's accurate that you've been fixing or repairing it daily?
Yes. Definitely.
Which
Pretty on brand.
I
All
feel
right.
like you should explain that joke just in case there are listeners who don't understand that is the acronym for Ford. Fix or repair daily.
Dude, if you don't understand that car manufacturer names get weird acronyms made up for them, like I don't know why you're listening to a car podcast.
I don't know. I think
It's probably for all the great humor and solid jokes.
yeah. Although I'm pretty sure we have some Zoomer listeners.
Okay, well, fair enough. Two
Yeah.
of the popular Ford acronyms that I remember hearing as a child were Ford stands for Fix or Repair Daily or Found on Road Dead.
Yeah.
I did hear a good one for Chevrolet recently.
Yeah.
I don't think it's new, but it was new to me. It was cracked heads, every valve rattles, oil leaks every time.
Nice.
Um,
I like the one for Fiat. Fix it again, Tony.
I've used that within the last 72 hours.
It hasn't really changed, since they were in the U.S. market previously.
Well, I just like it because Italians are just the last people that it's still okay to be racist against.
Right.
So any actual updates, Zach, or just truck is piece of shit?
That's the main one. My Subaru is somehow fixing problems that it has on its own. So that's kind of
nice.
Neat. Yeah.
it's neat.
That's always a mixed blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying.
It's neat until you later realize that, oh no, it didn't fix the problem. It hid it and got worse.
Yeah.
It's just the sensor broke.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not really sure how it happened because I was only hitting like 50% of my target peak boost numbers. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. I was hitting 100%. So I don't know. I thought there might be a leak, but I didn't plug any leaks and it just started hitting boost again. So yeah.
Something inside broke off and then clogged up the leak.
Probably.
By my understanding of how the boost controller works on those, it might have been either like a little clog in one of the vacuum lines, like maybe just a little bit of oil, or it could be that it was just not getting electricity to the boost control solenoid.
Yeah.
Because basically those work by bleeding off a little bit of pressure from the wastegate actuator.
Right.
And so if it's not doing that, it'll only hit about 8 psi.
Yep.
I think. So.
Yep. And that's what I was saying. So I assume there is like a logical explanation for it. But it is fun to think that my car is just magic and it fixes problems all by itself.
Well, there's always two explanations: the logical one and the one that I make up to make myself feel better.
Yes. I generally prefer the second.
You could have had the problem that I had when I just got mine, that one of the vacuum hose cracked and the wastegate wasn't opening at all, and I was getting like 22 pounds of boost. That was kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds way more fun than not enough boost.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably doing harm to the engine, but I could like spin the tires.
Can you not normally?
Not with all-wheel drive, not really. No.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
I was gonna say, one little thing with my Subaru is the other day the clutch felt kind of funny, and it had one of the indicators for knock on the what's it called, little computer thing.
Oh, the access port.
Yeah. So I think the safe limit is like 8 degrees advanced or whatever on that thing, and it was hitting like 10.
Oof.
And it's like, oh, maybe something's not right here.
Oh wow, I run 11 degrees on everything.
Well, it's like the adjustment or whatever. I forget it's like fine knock feedback or something. I'll have to do a little bit of more research into what's going on with that, but I mean, that engine's a little old anyways, so whatever. But yeah, I guess that's all for the project car updates. We can move on to the lead thing.
Yeah, let's get the lead out.
Yeah. So, lead is a chemical element with the symbol Pb from Latin plumbum, atomic number 82. It's a heavy metal, it's lead.
That's why I'm such a big fan of lead, actually.
Yeah.
I like lead's earlier stuff, though.
Once lead got a little bit more popular, it really went downhill.
Yeah, they got older and kind of went into like a black metal thing, and I didn't like that as much.
Honestly, that works as a heavy metal joke and as like the reality of lead pipes.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Nailed it.
Layers. That joke has layers.
So, humans have been mining and using lead for various purposes since at least around 6500 BC. It's a byproduct of smelting silver and other various alloys. So it's pretty easy to find and melt out of rocks and whatnot. It's easy to work with. It's easy to cast because it has a low melting point. So you can use it for projectiles, for slingshots. You can make pipes out of it. Romans used it to make a lot of water pipes, which is where the word plumbing comes from. It was used a lot in the Middle Ages to make roof tiles for churches. They made coffins. And then also the ancient Romans used it as a artificial sweetener, lead acetate, to sweeten wine.
Yum.
So yeah, good stuff. So that's kind of where the thing about eating lead paint chips comes from, is because it tastes sweet, and kids will start chowing down on that, and it's a problem as we'll get into here in a minute.
I mean, like everything, it's okay in moderation, right?
Not really, no. That used to be the belief. It turns out not really. There's no real safe lead level in humans.
See, I've seen a bunch of right-wing memes that would have me believe otherwise. They'll say things like, whoa, we used to eat lead paint chips and we all turned out fine, and these new kids are just babies.
None of them turned out fine.
I know.
Look at them.
Yeah, we used to drink from the hose and ride in the back of the pickup, and
which there was
only some of us died.
I feel like there was never anything wrong with drinking from the hose.
It's like the whole reason,
did anyone ever stop drinking from the hose?
Yeah, I mean, that's the least bad thing.
Why are they so
I
proud
do it
of
regularly
that?
still. Should I not do that?
They're very proud of it. It's very strange.
I do, but I have an old lead garden hose.
Well, yeah, all right. Maybe don't drink out of that one.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe some weird shit can grow in there, but I don't know. Flush it out a little bit. Yeah, we're not like a health advice podcast. None of us are doctors, so like take this with a grain of lead, I guess.
I've got my doctorate in bad ideas.
So some historians think that this kind of led to the decline of Rome because all the aristocrats were getting lead poisoning. It's not really clear. I think mostly the people working with lead, like plumbers and people making those roof tiles and whatnot, they were the people getting lead poisoning. And it's a tradition that lives on today. It's all the working class people.
It was actually pretty widely known that lead was bad by a certain point in the Roman Empire, because anybody who was like responsible for mining lead, their career was generally pretty short lived.
Yeah, I mean, in my notes I have 2000 BC. There was documentation of lead poisoning, and people figured that out pretty quick. But I mean, they still continue to use it in the Middle Ages. There's also something called lead carbonate or Venetian ceruse. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's a white lead compound that they use to like whiten skin for makeup for women mostly. And some people think that led to Elizabeth I's death from lead poisoning.
Pretty bizarre.
It led to that?
Yes. So it was also using in printing presses through the 20th century. So
listen, I was pretty anti-lead going into this, but if it's killing monarchs, I'm going to say I'm pro.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Cars and Comrades, the notoriously anti-monarchist podcast.
Yeah, critical support for lead carbonate.
Critical support for eating and wearing lead.
So, like other heavy metals, lead is very toxic to humans. So don't go like, eating plutonium or anything. Also, it especially affects the brains of fetuses and children who are still developing, and can lead to diseases like ADHD, impulsivity, bad decision making.
You're really making me feel like I've got lead poisoning now.
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, I was diagnosed with ADD as a kid, so I don't know. What was I going to say? Oh, and in real high doses, it can like lead to like real like hallucinations, delirium. What else? Like blindness, cancer, death. So it's generally bad for you. And modern medical science has figured out there's basically no safe level of lead. I think the USDA recommends no more than 10 micrograms per deciliter for adults.
That sounds...
Or 5 micrograms per deciliter of children.
Deciliter is a...
that's
that is
the
a
blood
made
level.
up...
So very small amounts.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
Deciliter is not a measurement I'm familiar with, and it sounds... I've never heard that used. What is it?
I think...
Is that 10 liters?
I think it's a tenth of a liter.
Tenth of a liter.
No, I think it's a tenth of a liter. I might be wrong on that. I should probably... Let me just look that up real quick.
Wait, so how much lead can I eat for every tenth of a liter of blood I've got?
Yeah, 1/10 of a liter is a deciliter, and microgram is like 1,000th of a gram, I believe.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that is a very small amount.
So why don't you just do like 100th of a gram for every liter?
Excuse me, it's 1/millionth of a gram.
Oh.
So 1/millionth of a gram per 1/10 of a liter of blood is the quantity that is considered, safe by government, U.S. government.
Huh.
So I should buy a much more accurate scale to weigh out how much lead I'm eating.
Yeah. I mean, basically, that's like, we didn't have the technology to detect that level until relatively recently. And so, like, basically, they'd be doing tests back in the 60s, and it's like, oh, there's no lead in your blood. You're fine. Don't worry about it. And it turns out it was doing damage to people back then. So, let's see. So the first like efforts to limit lead exposure for people that worked with lead was in the 1600s, and then the first actual laws to try to get safer working conditions were in the UK in the 1870s and 80s.
So you're telling me that like in the 1870s, like 1870s England, the notorious workers' utopia,
Yes.
they decided that lead was bad for people, but here we are in the modern world still being a little bit iffy on it.
Yeah, I mean,
seems like progress. Yeah, I'm good with this.
Yeah, I mean, people figured out pretty quick that it was bad for you, but like it took a while for the science to get actually developed enough that they could detect it and like look at people's brains and figure out what exactly was happening.
This just sounds like the lead poisoning version of global warming, where like we've reached a conclusion like 100 years ago, but we're still waiting for the science to come in.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And I'm sure there's other stuff like I forget what it's called. There's that shit that they use for like firefighting foam, and I think it's also involved in manufacturing Teflon that is like super duper toxic and like doesn't degrade over time. So that's good stuff. Microplastics.
Are you talking about asbestos?
No. Hold on a second.
Okay. It's like, are we still using that? I thought we kind of all agreed that was.
It still has uses, actually.
PFAS, perfluorooctanate acid, and perfluorooctanate sulfonic acid.
Sounds like lovely stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
We should make a podcast of just Bryant trying to pronounce random chemicals.
Yeah, there's a reason why I didn't go into organic chemistry, or any kind of chemistry for that matter. Actually, that's a lie. I do the practical side of biochemistry, by which I mean homebrewing.
Nice.
So, okay, so tetraethyllead is a sort of, I think they call it a semi-organic compound because it's organic and contains lead. It was first discovered in around 1850-ish, and I couldn't find a source for exactly who or when that was discovered. But in 1921, a guy named Thomas Midgley Jr., who's a chemist working with the Charles Kettering at the Dayton Research Laboratories, which was a subsidiary of General Motors, discovered that if you put tetraethyl lead into gasoline, it prevents knocking. So basically, premature combustion in gasoline engines happens when, if you don't have high octane fuel, when it's going under in the compression stroke, you can have basically it combusts it just from heating up from the compression, and that can.
It's called detonation or pre-detonation.
Yeah, it's a very dramatic, sort of almost like an explosion, more so than a controlled combustion. And it can damage your engine. It can make little pock marks in various components, or just like
blow a hole clean through your piston.
Exactly. Yeah, it can. It'll put a lot of stress on various components. So like back in the 20s, lots of cars only had like 6-to-1 compression ratios because the average gasoline was like 70 octane or something. It wasn't there wasn't that sort of technology of making high octane gas.
Okay, that actually also had a lot more to do with you can't achieve super high compression ratios with side valve motors.
Correct. Yeah, because with side valve motors you have a larger combustion chamber at the top of the motor.
Because of the location of the valves, you can't decrease the size of the combustion chamber to increase compression without also reducing the amount of lift in the valve.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
talking 1920s motors here, boys. This is what I actually know something about.
Yeah. So the GM started a division called the Ethyl Corporation. So they, didn't use the word lead at all in their advertising.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think they called it ethyl because, it's called tetraethyl lead, but also like there were other competing octane boosters that were based off of ethyl alcohol, ethanol. And they wanted to, say like, put the impression that, oh, hey, this is basically just alcohol that we're adding to engines, and also lead is a lot cheaper than alcohol, so that was it was more profitable for them to use this tetraethyl lead. I guess one of the positive things of it is that it acted as a lubricant for valve seats, because if you have non-hardened valve seats, they can kind of like weld themselves to the valves and cause pitting and damage. But basically, if you have a little film of lead on there, it'll make everything nice and happy.
The spring pressure on non-hardened valve seats will also like pull the valve like into the metal more. If you have like a springs with a high spring rate on the valves. There's specifically like some 50s motors that I would really like to run in like a hot rod or something, but you can't put hardened valve seats in them. You literally have to use like octane boosters or lead additives in the fucking fuel for them.
Yeah, and that's the nail head that we were talking about before?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty hard to run on the street just regularly.
By the way, little side tangent. I think we were talking about this on the Slack channel, but I kind of want to do a reverse flow hot V turbo nail head. So get a cam where it has the intake going into the exhaust ports and the exhaust coming out the intake, and then put a turbo where the carburetor would go. I think that would be kind of a fun thing to do.
That would be.
I still feel like you're going to destroy the block, but a reverse flow nail head is a thing that was, at the very least, accomplished in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, people have done reverse flow nail heads with blowers, and also turbo nail heads, but not the two combined, as far as I could find.
I really don't know what sort of power output those are able to withstand, because it's not a motor I've ever seen somebody push to its limits.
Well, the one that GM, the prototype turbo that they made like in the 60s, I think, had like 600 pound-feet of torque or something. So I forget the horsepower on it, but like they're pretty stout motors, I would say.
Yeah, but again, a naturally aspirated nail head can do better than 500 pound-feet of torque.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're tractor motors. That's why I love them.
Nice.
And they look super weird.
Oh, they do. Yeah, definitely. So anyways, as soon as industrial scale production of tetraethyl lead began in the 1920s, the factory workers began showing symptoms of lead poisoning. So at the Bayway refinery in New Jersey, I believe, 32 of 49 employees were hospitalized at some point during the plant's operation.
Oh, shit.
And 5 of them eventually died.
All right, yeah, that's real bad.
So,
yikes.
Yeah, so this was around 1925. And to allay fears, Thomas Midgley Jr. Did a press conference where he dipped his hands into tetraethyl lead and said, "Oh, hey, look, it's perfectly fine."
The devil's milkshake.
Yeah, it's kind of like, was it Obama or
Obama.
Hickenlooper who was drinking the fracking fluid?
Oh, I thought
Obama was the one that was drinking Flint water.
Yeah, I think you're right. He was drinking the Flint water.
So point being, we've seen this before. Continues to this day. So, and then he, Midgley, took some time off and took a vacation in Florida because he had, he went to like a health spa, I think, and had all the symptoms of lead poisoning, but never said that he had lead poisoning because...
I just touched lead and then got all the symptoms of lead poisoning. It's probably unrelated, though.
I like that he went to a spa in Florida. That is... It's the fully human equivalent of we sent the dog to live on a farm upstate.
Pretty much, yeah.
The dog doesn't have lead poisoning. We sent him to live on a farm upstate.
Yeah, and Midgley is an interesting guy. There's a whole episode of the Dollop podcast about him. He also invented chlorofluorocarbons, the refrigerant that put the hole in the ozone layer. So he's, not the greatest at inventing safe things, I guess.
Yeah, apparently not.
It's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission.
Yeah. And I guess we mentioned Flint, Michigan briefly. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but the main thing with lead pipes is the pH level of the water going through them. So if it's acidic, it can eat away at the lead and leach it into the water. If it's more neutral or more basic, it's not a big deal. It's just going to have an oxide layer on the inside, and it's not going to leach into the water at all. But what happened with Flint, and I'm sure the listeners might know this already, but they switched the source of their water coming into the water treatment plant from one body of water to another, and it was more acidic, and people started getting lead poisoning. So
if the water is more basic, then it's okay?
Exactly, yes.
So why don't they just put pumpkin spice in all the water? Same!
I legit did not know that, actually.
Oh, boy.
Well, no, pumpkin spice won't actually help me.
Yeah, you need like some Ugg boots, and I don't know. What was I going to say? So in 1925, there was an inquiry into these deaths by the medical examiner of New York, I believe, and the U.S. Surgeon General looked into it also. A few cities and states banned tetraethyllead briefly, but then the U.S. Surgeon General report came out and said, this is, basically safe in small amounts. So like, just like put a face mask on if you're handling this stuff, and like maybe some gloves, and you'll be fine. So,
and then everyone accused them of stripping them of their rights for making them wear a face mask.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it continued to be used. It was used a lot in World War II. I think, I believe General Motors licensed it to a German company in the 30s. So that was a good move, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Germany didn't really do anything wrong in the 30s, so that tracks.
No, yeah. But it was used in airplane engines a lot because, they need higher octane for better performance. A lot of them were supercharged or turbocharged, especially in the later years of the war. And then it was used, obviously, a lot in, big American V8s during the muscle car era to get, when higher compression ratios started being a thing. And then, in the 60s, there was the environmental movement. There was things like Silent Spring, the hippies, etc. And people started looking at lead and saying, oh, hey, maybe this isn't such a good idea after all. And also sort of what led to, I did it again, what caused the eventual phase out of lead was the adoption of catalytic converters on cars. So that started happening in the 60s when emissions regulations started taking effect. And turns out lead is not good for catalytic converters. It'll basically just coat everything and make them totally ineffective. So that's when unleaded gasoline started becoming more available in the 70s. And then in 76, I believe it was part of the Clean Air Act, they started to phase it out in the U.S. But it wasn't completely... yes, Connor, what do you got?
Yeah, I was just going to note, so catalytic converters did start being used in the mid-70s because of the Clean Air Act, which was, I believe, which I just did a whole bunch of... we just did the episodes on it. It was either 1970 or 1971. The Clean Air Act was passed. This meant that car makers had to start producing cars that could meet these standards, and they had like 5 years to do it or something. So right in that like 1972, they actually started coming out with catalytic converters, but by 1975, 1976, there were also other additional emissions controls. And I would imagine that kind of corresponds a lot with the phase out of leaded fuels that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure the boomers will say, "Oh, that was the end of the golden era of muscle cars." That was when we couldn't have high compression V8s, and
it doesn't take a boomer. I will also say that it's just a worthwhile trade-off. Like, yes, I will accept that my muscle car can't make quite as much power as long as I'm also not poisoning entire generations of children.
Yeah.
Yes. And
but we know that boomers are just so fucking entitled.
I mean, I guess if you want to sort of classify eras, this was the beginning of what they call the malaise era, or maybe that started in '78, or whenever, Carter gave his speech about the malaise happening in the U.S. But then you had the turbo era in the '80s when fuel injection started being used, and other octane boosters came around,
like cocaine.
yes.
The human octane booster.
Yeah. So, anyways, lead gas was not completely phased out in the U.S. until 1996. So, I believe all of us were alive. I don't know. Maybe Zach, you were. I don't know if you were the baby here. If you were born after '96.
I was just barely alive. I was a
Okay.
couple years old, but I was.
No, you
around.
can't go just barely alive. Based on that metric, I'm still there.
I mean, I've been just barely alive for about 26 years, but I had just started existing.
Yeah. So all of us have probably gotten a small dose of lead as children.
Well, at least a little bit.
Okay, so that being said, for clarification, didn't they largely phase it out of use for cars in like what was it, like around 80 something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just still available in a few places for those old cars, those old American V8 cars or whatever.
Well, I say that specifically because okay, I had a friend who was an environmental attorney for like 10 years, and he says that there is conclusive research that shows that the drop in violence, like violent crime in America, starting around 1980, was directly linked to the elimination of leaded fuels in cars.
Yes, and I'm getting to that too, but
I beat you there, so I'm sorry.
So other countries continue to use leaded gas, and actually the reason I found out about this is Algeria was the last country to phase out lead in July of this year, but that's only because they just ran out of it and they couldn't get any more. And leaded avgas is also used in airplanes today, so basically any airplane built before 1976 probably runs on leaded gasoline, and some race cars also. It's still legal to use it off-road, I guess. So what Brandon was mentioned, there's the lead crime hypothesis that lead exposure at young ages leaves children with problems like learning disabilities, ADHD, impulse control problems, and then as adults they commit crimes, especially violent crime. So there's other sources of lead, like we mentioned, lead pipes, lead paint, lead fishing weights, whatever. Lead bullets, but leaded gasoline was, the major source of lead, environmental lead, because it was, an aerosol gas basically floating around next to any road, and you could just breathe it in. And it also settled in the soil. So if you live near a major highway that was built after the 70s, before the 70s, you might have lead in your garden.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's been a few different statistical studies that basically show there's a 20-year gap between when lead levels fall and when violent crime rates fall. So, yeah, beginning in the early 90s was when crime really started to fall. And a lot of people thought it was, the adoption of like broken windows policing, just increased policing in general, or like, I don't know, some people think it's the availability of abortions. Yes, Connor?
Yeah, I was just going to say the availability of abortion. That was Freakonomics, although I think that theory has. I'm not 100% sure, but I think a revisiting of that hypothesis has kind of shown that there were actually other factors beyond the abortion, although, perhaps the combination of not having lead or as much lead in the air and in products, along with the availability of abortion, which led to better family planning and whatnot, along with probably plenty of other sources as well. But I think the abortions thing was kind of shown to be a little bit of a reach from Freakonomics.
Yeah,
Right.
Freakonomics is notorious for conflating like the whole causation and correlation thing.
Yep.
Like two things might correlate but not have a non-causal relationship.
Yeah, they you know, it was like, yeah, there was probably some effect there. Like they did catch on to something, but I think it's implied that they kind of they seem to embellish the effect a little bit.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to like go into like this stuff, so I don't have the research stuff in front of me. But there is a book that I have that now the name escapes me. But they discuss how during the Reagan administration, there was a study done that showed that police spending had been down, and they had been putting more money into social services, addiction treatment, things like that. And it caused a significant decrease in the crime rates. So they pushed back the release of that study for like a year. They bumped up police budgets. And then when they released the study, police budgets had been increased. So they were able to say that the decrease in violence was because of the increase in police budget.
Wow.
Of course.
Yeah.
That sounds
So that was also another thing going on in that era. Just bullshit.
Love it.
And they used that as an excuse to cut social services that had actually been used to lower those crime rates.
And one of these articles, I forget if it was the Brookings or Mother Jones one. I'll put it in the show notes. They said, like basically lead abatement projects have a bigger impact than like police budgets. So like we should just like defund the police and spend that money like cleaning up lead paint and lead pipes and stuff, and it will have a better result than increasing police budgets.
We don't need to defund the police anymore. COVID's doing a pretty good job for us.
Yeah.
Well, if we know anything about their budgets, they'll use the money they have. Even if they get less officers, they'll probably buy more tanks or something. Well, we got it. It's the money's in the budget. If we don't spend it, we'll lose it.
Yeah, but they're such pieces of shit, man. They're like, all of them are suddenly like, oh, I'm going to quit my job because nobody likes me. And so, like, if they don't have anybody to drive the tanks, then they can have all the fucking tanks they want. I don't give a shit.
I still give a shit. I'd rather they didn't have
just
that.
get those robot dogs to fucking drive them.
How about this? We take every single cop, replace him with a tank, and call it a day.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's like not the what is it, Ed 209 or whatever, the thing from RoboCop.
All RoboCops are bastards.
Yeah.
Indeed.
What was I gonna say? Oh, so like in this article, it was also saying like, the number one indicator for crime is still economic, is still money, but I think lead is still significant. Like even if you control for other factors, like if you study two different populations that are exactly the same and just one has more lead exposure and the other has less, there's going to be more violent crime if they're exposed to lead as children. So
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, it turns out the takeaway is lead turned the boomers stupid and violent. So
does it turn the freaking frogs gay?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Right.
I mean, I don't think brain or frog brains have frontal lobes, so I think they're okay from lead. But who knows?
All right.
Yeah, the only thing turning the frogs gay are the sexy femboy frogs.
They're so hard to resist.
More research is needed.
Yeah. So I think that's about all I have on lead.
Well, I think it's a good thing we stopped using that in fuels. I think that's a safe conclusion.
Yeah, generally, I would say.
Yeah, like there's really no point for it, man, because if you have leaded gasoline and unleaded gasoline, they both taste the same, so you might as well take the lead out.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I was a tourist in Costa Rica around 2005, and I'm pretty sure they had leaded gasoline there, and the exhaust from the cars smelled kind of sweet, so that was kind of nice.
What was it though?
Yeah, after
just a nice pleasant, environmentally damaging aroma.
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about my BO now?
But yeah, also another thing, if you have lead paint in your house, it's probably fine to just leave it there, except on the window frames, because if you're moving the window up and down, it'll scrape off little bits of lead dust and you can inhale that. Also, if you have children or animals around that might eat lead paint chips, that's a problem. So yeah, fun stuff.
Lovely.
Well, I think next up, since we kind of missed Zach on the episode when we were talking about our fantasy car factory ideas, Zach, why don't you tell us what you would do if you were put in charge of a car company? What kind of cars would you build?
Can I get like a quick rundown of what you guys have been over, so I'm not repeating the same things because I didn't have a chance to listen to what you guys.
I don't remember exactly what everyone said, but my plan was to make like carbon fiber replicas of Toyotas from the 80s and put various different engines in them.
Oh, very cool. I like that.
I probably had very strong opinions about something that I currently don't even remember.
That sounds about right.
I think, Brandon, your idea was to just go to junkyards and rehab old cars. And
get no, actually, no, I stand by that. That's basically what I do with my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, mine would...
Well, no, I stand by that because manufacturing is a huge source of pollution, but if you're just retrofitting things, then you're skipping a bunch of steps in the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you even mentioned doing like electric retrofits on old junkyard cars, which also very good.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's
super cool.
The biggest drawback to my idea would be that, like, if you're using older cars, then there's still safety concerns. But so much of those safety concerns are just because currently everybody drives 8,000-pound lifted trucks, so, like, nothing is safe against them.
True. Those things could probably total a train. Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, I think a lot of things can total a train if you put it on the tracks just right.
Also true.
And then, Zach, mine was essentially just a way of running a car company as a, workers cooperative, but also changing the focus from where other car companies spend their money on bullshit marketing and stupid bullshit that, like, is just a waste of money. I would do, I would cut out a lot of that and spend more money on making factory aftermarket parts, kind of like Nismo, essentially, but like better, because sometimes Nismo is like, hey, you could buy these, this part that's like $2,000 and it's like a better oil pump, and you're like, dude, I can get a better oil, like an even better thing on the aftermarket that's like way cheaper. So like something like a Nismo, but also a little more practical and not like, you really don't need to over engineer it's like, come on, it is not rocket science. So a lot of those cost centers can be significantly reduced and workers can be properly treated. And that was kind of my whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a given. I've often considered, if I had the opportunity just to have some sort of a car shop or something like that, how I would handle that. And I always come back around to I don't want to be anybody's boss.
Yeah.
So I'd have to have some other people who are in it just as much as I was to run things in a more democratic kind of way.
Yeah. You probably get a better result anyway.
Yeah.
So then we put the question to you. So Zach, if you were to run your own car maker or car factory or whatever it may be, how would you run it? What would be the focus of the company, and how would you do better than what we currently see today under capitalism, which kind of has a tendency to suck?
I mean, if we're going to assume like unlimited resources here, and
that's already what capitalism assumes, so why not?
Okay, yeah, might as well. and a full-fledged car company, all one of the big three, or like a major car manufacturer, not like a boutique shop.
Well, remember the big three combined, I think, is smaller than Tesla in terms of market capitalization. I'm pretty sure.
Smaller.
Define smaller very clearly.
In terms of stock market valuation and no other aspect whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of Bitcoin and selling carbon credits.
Oh, yeah.
Also,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tesla's huge at that. The biggest car company selling Bitcoin. Because that makes sense. No, I think my main issue that I have with most modern car manufacturing is an excess of models that are trying to do more than one thing and failing at both of them. Basically, it's the crossover problem. Crossovers are made for nothing, they don't do anything, and they fucking suck.
Yep.
Yeah.
They hit a weird target that no one should have been shooting for already, and then everything just became them. And it's infuriating.
Even the Mustang became an electric crossover.
Yeah, it's like nothing is safe. Becoming a crossover, it's insane.
Bring back station wagons.
Yes, I am all about station wagon supremacy. They're the best design cars ever. No, but I think my biggest thing, my get the company going car would just be the most basic car that could possibly be made. I think that would be our bread and butter.
Runs off pumpkin spice.
Yep. This thing comes with Ugg boot rims pre-installed. This is going to be a basic ass bitch. It's going to have no amenities whatsoever. It's going to have front wheel drive and a front engine.
We'll get
2 doors
to the Frappuccino.
Oh yeah.
So like basically like a, I don't know, Ford Festiva from the like late 80s, early 90s.
Yep, absolutely. I think that is like a huge untapped, I don't want to call it market, but there's a huge untapped potential that no one really targets that anymore. Like everything has Bluetooth and navigation screens and rear backup cameras and sensors and driver assist features, and they all cost $25,000 minimum.
Well, okay,
and I think
to be
if
fair,
you did away with a lot of that, you could make an affordable car that was still safe, but
you would still have to have the backup camera, though.
oh right, that's such a weird thing. That's required now, isn't it?
That is required.
Yeah.
Fucking so
Since,
weird.
2014, I believe.
I always forget about that because I always see it as such like a luxury option. I've never had a car that's had one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And so it's such a strange thing. It's like, oh, it's like a seatbelt now. You just have to have it.
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, I have like backed into things before, so maybe it's a good idea to have. So
I mean, I have to, but still.
What the fuck, guys? I drive an extended wheelbase van and I don't hit anything. What is wrong with you?
You're just better than us, I guess.
Yeah.
I have 10 years of experience driving on you.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Once you're a boomer like me. I'm not a boomer.
Yeah, no, so that's like my main concern would just like a car for the masses, man. Make a new Lada.
Yeah, so I was
know?
about to say you'd be
Nice.
this is a
Make
lot
it
of
indestructible. Make it dirt fucking cheap. Yeah.
Make one car, but make a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like the main thing. I think cars could be way cheaper from manufacturers. I think they're way overpriced for basic models. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think we can have some stripped down versions of cars that cost like $15,000 brand new. I don't think that's absurd or like out of the realm of possibility.
Can you even buy a car with like roll up windows anymore?
I don't think so.
some fleet.
No,
I
you
mean,
definitely
maybe
can.
Some
maybe like fleet.
yeah, fleet vehicles.
Oh, okay.
You definitely can. It's probably used.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I like about my MR2.
Yeah.
Although I was going to point out there was I forget which generation of Lancer Evos did this, but there was like an Evo MR or something that like was a stripped down
Mhm.
where they had like roll up windows and everything, and it just like shaved weight like crazy. Feel like you could add a little bit of that. So throw a turbo on that basic car, and then take away even more shit out of it, and have that version. Real money maker there.
Oh yeah, that was gonna be my next model that I was gonna talk about. Was like, maybe built on the same platform, but now it's longitudinal, so it's rear wheel drive,
Yes.
but it keeps the same chassis.
I love it.
And it's still bare bones though, and it's just about the speed. I think we were talking about this with the new Z car.
Yeah.
You had to get the luxury package to get things like a limited slip, and it's just got all the fancy bits. I don't give a fuck about that shit, man.
Yeah.
I want a car that is stripped down, just pure power and low weight. The Lotus theory.
Yeah.
Simplify and add lightness.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck heated seats, give me a posi rear, and I'm happy.
Fuck yeah. My butt does not need to be that warm. I'll fart hard and I'll be good. leave the shit out of my seats, you know?
I mean, I do like heated seats. It's nice to have on my Subaru in the wintertime.
If your seats are already cloth, though, like it's not even...
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It really only matters.
It's really only helpful for leather seats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my car company is just going to be the most basic stripped down cars that you could find. Also, if I built pickups, I would build them regular pickup shape and size, not van with a baby bed.
That would be
Those
great.
things are fucking stupid.
Trust me, those things are way bigger than my van.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they are.
I think it would be cool to bring back the mini truck style, because the mini truck is what we that's what we need for the masses. Like, we don't need 8,000, but you're like, nobody needs that. Like the old like Ranger or the Tacomas or the S10s. That was when we had it right.
S10s, yes.
That was when we had it right.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a recent study done that said that like the average truck owner uses their truck for like truck things like hauling or towing on an average of like once or twice a year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they're owning these like $70,000 and $80,000 trucks that are entirely overbuilt, so that they have the option of using them for their purpose 1 or 2 times per year.
You know, I feel like another.
I mean, you can just rent a U-Haul for that.
Exactly. I also think like I feel like nowadays the kinds of people who have these big behemoth ass trucks have just like an excessively shitty attitude compared to like the people who used to have S10s. I don't think were like, whoa, look at how big my truck is. Like, I don't think they were quite as ridiculous about their trucks when the norm was a much smaller truck. I feel like as they've gotten bigger and more luxury, the types of attitudes you see associated with them has changed. Maybe that's just my perception, but like,
S10s and Rangers and stuff were very utilitarian.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what.
And I mean, when a new truck, like a 250, a 2500, is in the same, pricing bracket as entry level Mercedes and BMWs, you're inviting a certain type of person to buy that truck.
Yeah.
And it's the person who would have otherwise bought a Mercedes, sedan, but thinks that he will be cooler if he has a pickup because it's more manly. But he has 80 grand to spend on a car.
Yeah, nowadays the average F-250 owner is just as shitty as a Lexus owner.
Exactly.
And a lot of them, they're just cosplaying as working class. They're like, I have a truck to do truck things like, carpentry or
Take
whatever.
my family to soccer practice.
Yeah, exactly. But, they just drive it to their office job or whatever. Or maybe they're like the foreman at a construction site or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So lame.
Every once in a while, they'll throw the sports gear in the bed so they can make it feel justified. I could probably go on about more car company stuff, but I think that kind of covers my main philosophy of what I would do.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Well, for possibly the first time in our whole history, we have recorded in a pretty efficient fashion, but that still means that we're over an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think we'll ever get under an hour, but I was just like, I'm not used to this. I'm like, do we need to fill 2 hours here?
Well, I mean, we'll be pretty close. You got your segment. We'll shoehorn that in there, and yeah, I think that'll be good. Not 2.5 hours of us rambling for once.
Okay.
And we can cover that later, but not next episode because we're going to be recording the podcast with another podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We got...
So,
wait, are we announcing? Is that like a secret?
Not really. We haven't really promoted it.
Do I have to kill everyone who's listened to this episode now so it doesn't get out?
I'm way ahead of you. I'm eating lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to say what it is.
Yeah. But we're doing a collaboration with another cool podcast. You'll like it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll say it's not Chapo. We're not quite that big yet.
Yeah, probably never will.
I feel like they might hate us anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
they would probably. I don't know if any of the Chapo guys have ever actually met any working class people, so they might not.
I mean, they probably don't own cars either. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll wrap up this section, and then we'll go to the sort of field recordings that I did at the Lemons race on September 11th. Never forget, in High Plains Raceway. Sorry if the audio is shitty. It was done with my phone at a racetrack, so there will probably be, me banging my phone on things and or race cars driving past in that.
We're trying something new.
Yeah.
Before I jump off, remember to follow us on social media and rate the podcast. Give us nice reviews and stuff if you like us, assuming you do, if you made it this far.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just tell you we're doing an episode with Pod Save America, guys.
Oh man,
we're coming out. We're lib.
Man, that's
we're actually power posters on the neoliberal subreddit.
we all bought hybrids.
I mean, buying hybrids is good.
I am actually thinking about buying a hybrid now that my commute is longer, but we can talk about that on a future episode.
Or I can just judge you silently.
That's fine. Yeah.
They're very utilitarian. I get. They're at this point they're more utilitarian than an actual truck. So
yeah,
I'm not going to judge you too harshly for it.
Yeah, and it would basically be for utilitarian purposes, and I would keep one of my fun cars. So we'll see about that. Depends on which car is more broken.
A very good friend of mine who built custom muscle cars and resto mod stuff, actual hot rods. I think he's even worked on a Riddler car or two. Drives a Prius because for a while his commute was almost 100 miles each way.
Oh my god, that's outrageous.
Yeah. Wait, maybe it was 100 miles a day. Yeah, no, that's way more right. It was
still outrageous.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely was. But he wasn't exactly going to buy a muscle car that got optimistically 15 or 16 miles to a gallon and then do that.
Yeah.
If I was smart, I would do that. I have a 70-mile round trip commute.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's rough.
I mean, mine is only about 15 miles each way, but I figure that might be a good candidate for a Nissan Leaf at the end of its life that doesn't have much, mile or much range left in the battery. I hear you can pick those up for a few thousand, so I could be the last owner of one of those.
Seems reasonable.
Just charge it up at night and yeah,
doesn't seem like a bad idea at all.
So we'll see about that. Anything else before I stop the recording?
Nope. Follow us on social media. And reach out if you have stories that you want to tell us.
I can't think of anything sufficiently snarky to say, so I'll go.
Yeah, do reach out. Send us a unhinged rant on our email or just hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. We appreciate all of those.
And check us out on Pod Save America.
Yeah.
I would be perfectly happy if we ever did a Pod Save America. I would just let Brandon handle that. I feel like that would be great.
Would it just be Brandon screaming "fuck you" like 20 times?
Making veiled wall
I lack
threats?
the self-awareness to know what role I play on this podcast, so am I just the loud, abrasive one?
Yes.
A
That's
little
what I've
bit.
been going for this whole time.
Okay, good.
Well, I mean, by going for, I mean, I'm just acting the way that I act towards the few people that will put up with me and call me a friend. So that. also, just to make the Pod Save America joke, I couldn't even remember the name of that shitty fucking show, and I had to Google it real quick. That's why there was a fucking lag on how long it took me to make that joke I was Googling.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like Pod Damn America. Those guys are pretty cool.
Yeah, way different pod.
That'd be awesome if we could get on that podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be awesome if I got on Pod Save America. I would be such a piece of shit.
Well, maybe they'll do a call-in show someday.
Hey, this is Bryant. I'm doing a little field recording here at High Plains Raceway out in bumfuck empty Colorado, middle of nowhere. My car's dashboard is telling me it's 96 degrees out. So I got plenty of ice water and sunscreen. I'm gonna go around here and talk to some folks, try to do a couple quick little interviews, and I'll take some photos for the social media and all that. I'm not sure if this will go into regular episode, if there still will be a bonus thing or what. But yeah, the Subaru did okay coming up here. Cruising on the highway with the cruise control on. The AC is still broken, so I got my little spray bottle of water here to keep me cool. DIY swamp cooler sort of deal. It kind of worked, So yeah, I'm gonna go walk around the paddock here and see what's going on, say hi to some folks, and I'll report back. Oh, I think I forgot to say, this is the 24 Hours of Lemons race in Colorado at High Plains Raceway. I forget if they call it High Plains Drifter or BFEGP, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. The race is taking place on 9/11, 2021. Never forget. Salvador Allende, etc. How could I forget? I don't know. Hi, so I'm with Rafi, previous guest, who is racing the 24 Hours Lemons here. Rafi, why don't you tell the fine folks at home about your race car trials and travails?
All right. So for the last almost 2 years, we've been repairing and rebuilding our engine. We have a 1987 Toyota MR2 race car, and in 2019, it blew a lot of seals in the engine, and we just said it'll be easier to rebuild it and maybe make it a little bit better. So, a weekend here, a weekend there, a lot of help sourcing parts and time and effort, and we got the car up and running, and it was running great. So we said we're going to enter for the full 24-hour race in September 2021. Well, on the Tuesday before the race, the car, as I was pulling it out of the garage, made a very loud metallic clunk from the engine. And anybody who knows engines, hearing a clunk and then a stop is not good. So immediately I let my team know, and then there was a team member who... there's a notification group online, and there was also other people in that notification group, and one of them was bringing a spare race car, which honestly he was bringing for parts. And he said, hey, would you like my 1991 Acura Integra? It's got 1 million miles. We haven't really done anything to it from the past race, and you're going to need to put some sort of lights on it. But if you do all that, feel free to rent it. So I said yes. We got to the track Friday morning. We took the lights off of the race car Friday morning. We got to the track, and then from noon to 5 o'clock, We were getting all the lights working, getting everything working, and tech for 24 Hours of Lemons ends at 5 p.m. on Fridays. At 4:59, we rolled up to tech. We got it through lights, tail lights, brake lights, everything inside the car, the cage, the fire suppression, everything works, and the kill switch. And at 5:02 p.m., we were good to go. We added a couple more lights because this will be a full 24-hour race, and the inky darkness of the eastern plains of Colorado is very dark, so sometimes stock lights will not do it. So we have some Baja Designs S2 Pro lights, which are really designed as like a very good fog light. They're mounted on the front, and they're mounted for our corner lights. And they're mounted in such a way that we can see the corners, but they also shine forward. And right now we are 4 hours and 55 minutes into racing, and the car has been on the track a majority of the time. We've done our driver changes pretty well. The fuel stop has been pretty good. I'm very happy with how things are going. Most of the previous experiences has been the car off the track, more time on the track, so I'm very happy how we are now, and I'll try not to say that anymore, not to jinx it. But yeah, in about 10-15 minutes, I'm gonna hop on in and do my stint. Everybody's taking about an hour of driving and then a couple hours out, and we're gonna try to continue that all throughout the night. So we've got 3 drivers so far. First one did about an hour and a half. Second one did about an hour. Third one is about to do about an hour, and I'll do my hour, and then we'll start all over again. That's how it goes. Endurance racing. Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Trying to think of anything else to ask. What was I going to say? So do you think you'll have the MR2 back up and running for next race in June, or what are you thinking?
To be fair, we have not looked at the MR2. Me and James was present. We pushed the car back into the garage, and that's it. We have not looked at the oil pan. We have not tried. I started trying it 2 more times. It's like that car over there. You know, you can hear the starter going and going and going, but nothing's catching. So something is not correct. But sometimes it's better to not know, because if you know what's wrong with the car, then you have a lot more stress. It's like we just know that it's not working, and sometimes that's enough. So, you know, when we get back, then we can start diagnosing it. But I think it's better right now for all of us to just be focused on the car we have now and where we're at, because just, you know, when you can just focus on one thing, you can get it done. When you have all those things above your head, sometimes it just cascades and you get stressed out. And, you know, we're here to go racing. We're not here to think about the next car, the next year. I hope, I pray, I wish you can get back together, but I don't know. We'll see. You know, time will tell. We thought we were going to make it for the 2020 24-hour race. We did not. So, you know, you can prepare for the best and, you know, hope you make it.
Yeah, and, you know, I was thinking maybe I should offer those guys my MR2 engine, because my MR2 was out with transmission problems. But I think at that point you had already got the Acura squared away.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, well, sometimes even with 3 days before a race, getting one engine out and another engine in, and, you know, we're part-timers. We can't do this full-time. You know, we all have jobs. We all have obligations.
Right.
And, you know, saying we're going to do an engine swap 3 days before the race and then hope it all works out may not be the best course. So, you know, it was really luck that got us here. You know, if the notification group didn't have this guy in it, then we wouldn't have had it. And there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, best of luck, I guess.
Thanks.
Keep going.
I'll break some legs. Yeah. Hopefully not my own. Keep it shiny side up, as they say.
Exactly. All right. I'm here with my friend Kevin. How's it going, Kevin?
It's going well so far. Well, I mean, unfortunately, I have a steering column that's broken in the truck, but other than that, our truck runs well, so there's a good start.
Yeah, so you have a 1950 Dodge pickup truck. I raced with you years ago when it still had the original, or I don't know if it was the original, but a flathead straight 6.
It had a flathead 6 in it. It was actually a 218, I found out later it was actually from a 37 Plymouth truck when we first raced out at Miller with you. Then we did an overnight engine swap on the second night from an airport tug into the truck. Turns out that was from a 47 Plymouth Special Deluxe that came out of the Clark Airport tug, and that was actually a 230 cubic engine rather than 218.
Yeah, they basically made that same engine from like, I don't know, the 20s through the 70s or something.
Yeah, so the Flathead 6, it was originally designed in like 1928 or something. They actually kept it in production all the way into the mid-80s in industrial use, like, irrigation pumps and forklifts and things like that. It was a really big use by Clark, was a very large manufacturer of people that use that engine.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? And now you've got a little bit of an upgrade for the engine.
Oh yeah, after 6 or 7 years of driving the truck and getting passed by everybody and not passing a single person, I decided to put a V8 or do something with it. The original plan was actually to turbocharge the Flathead. That went by the wayside. So a friend of mine down in the Springs actually gave me a 5.2 Magnum. I pulled it apart. Turns out it was not great. I used it as a core to get a 5.9 Magnum from O'Reilly's. It's a Mexican rebuild special, and that's what's in it now. It's a 5.9 Magnum V8 out of like a 01 Ram, and the transmission's out of like a 2008-ish Dodge Ram. It's a 6-speed manual.
Cool. And it has a Jaguar independent suspension, right?
Yep, Jaguar independent, front and rear. The Jaguar rear end is kind of special because it's got inboard disc brakes, and there's also no upper control arm. As far as the front and rear suspension goes, it's a really nice, easy swap to do, because on the front suspension, the only thing you have to fabricate is the upper shock mounts. On the rear end, the only thing you have to fabricate is trailing arm mounts or trailing arms and mounts. Tidbit for anyone that's doing it, Lexus LS400 trailing arms fit into a Jaguar XJ6 and are much easier to mount a trailing arm mount for than the large, about 6-inch rubber donut that the original Jaguar has.
Huh, interesting. So you said you have problems with the steering column. What happened with it?
So a buddy of mine locally gave me a Cadillac steering column out of like a 1970s DeVille or something. I don't know exactly. Early, mid, late 70s something Cadillac. It was a tilt and telescoping steering column that I had to modify to fit. And where I cut the housing around the outside, I didn't realize that the tilt mechanism actually rested on some rollers. And where that tilt went up and down, I actually cut a little bit too far, and it actually pulled off that pin where that pin seats into the outer housing, and it ripped the actual housing, which includes the actual steering bearing up on top, out of the truck. At that point, there was literally nothing holding the steering column, like the steering wheel, onto the truck, and you could almost just rip the thing right out. I've got some buddies that are out there picking up, I think, a Toyota Prius steering column. We're going to try to get that in tonight.
Huh, interesting. Any reason why a Toyota Prius, or is it just what they found?
So one of our drivers actually was complaining about the lack of power steering, and he was very upset about it. So now he wants to put a power steering rack in it. So that's why they're going with a Prius rack, because it's an electric power steering that literally only takes one positive wire and a ground to get power steering into. And apparently it's a fairly common swap. Once it gets here, we'll have to look at it, see if it's going to clear everything, and fabricate some brackets, get out the welder grinder, things like that, and hopefully get back on track. This morning we went out for 4 or 5 laps. Truck ran great. It wants to pick up the inside rear tire on every corner and smoke for another 300 feet, which is hilarious, seeing a 50 Dodge pickup just like smoke a 335 rear tire. But that's what the truck does now, so it's all kinds of fun. With the Flathead, our fast lap time was about a 3:09. With this one, the fast lap so far after like a total of 5 laps is like a 2:42. So we cut 30 seconds off of our lap time effectively. With 4 laps. I wasn't pushing it that hard. I was just seeing what it would do.
Yeah. Well, cool. Any other plans on racing that in any other races around the country, or?
It's possible. I'm looking at Lucky Dog next year for a couple things. I'm hoping to maybe get it out to Laguna Seca at some point next year, maybe.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes. There's a couple other drivers around the country that might be interested in it. Randy Popes actually was interested in maybe driving the truck at some point.
Interesting.
Which
Okay.
would be kind of hilarious and terrifying because I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm not a fabricator, but hey, if he wants to come race it, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I guess it would suck to build the truck that kills Randy Popes.
Yeah, that would really be bad. That would be a bad thing. I'm not going to want to kill Randy Popes. Right now, I really need a larger front sway bar because it's just picking up that inside rear really, really bad. I was talking to Anton Lovett, and that's what he recommended. I'm not a suspension guy. I don't know anything about suspensions, really, and that's what he recommended for it.
Yeah, I think that's the accepted wisdom is you, the other end, front or back, you stiffen up that sway bar to compensate on the other end or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, apparently if you put a larger front sway bar on, it actually makes it so the rear doesn't, like, move around as much, and the opposite. I don't know physics, something or other. I talked to experts for that.
It's black magic.
Exactly, black magic. It's FM. It's FM.
Cool. Well, anything else for the listeners before we sign off here?
Not offhand. Just have fun. Don't take life too seriously, and laugh at yourself sometimes.
That's words to live by, I'd say.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
When left entirely on its own devices, capitalism foists its diseconomies and its toxicity upon the general public and upon the natural environment. And then it does an interesting thing. It eventually begins to devour itself. If the paladins of corporate America want to know what really threatens our way of life, it's their way of life.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
It's important that we examine the twin forces behind the Biden candidacy, the billionaires and the Bolsheviks.